Hello and welcome to Marketing Matters. Today we're going to be talking about agritourism, so stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Marketing Matters. I'm Christie Welch, Direct Food and Agricultural Marketing Specialist with Ohio State University Extension. And with me today is Patrick Dengel, who is with our Business Development Network and with our studio here at the OSU South Centers in Piketon.
It is really great to be here. You are going to be talking about a subject that I know really very little bit about. And I'm looking forward to learning more about what is agritourism.
Well, thank you, Patrick, and it's always good to be here with you in the studio. And I thought since fall is in the air and we start thinking about where are we going to get our pumpkins for our fall decorating and our Halloween festivities. And so I thought it was a perfect time to talk again about agritourism and what agritourism is and how it might be beneficial to add some agritourism activities to your farm.
So what is agritourism?
Well, that's a great question, Patrick. And so agritourism is really a way to bring the general population out to see farming operations. You know, as a population, we're so removed from how food and agricultural happens. And so it's a great way to really provide education to the general public on what we do as farmers, as well as having them come out and have a great experience on the farm. And the benefit, really, in addition to the education to the general public, is it can add some income to farmers' pockets and help those farms be more financially sustainable over the long term. And as you see on the screen, things that include agritourism are pick your own operations. And we have many farms here in Ohio where you can go pick your own apples or pick your own pumpkins or pick your own strawberries, and the list goes on and on. One of the things that really took off a decade or so ago were the corn mazes. And I've seen some very elaborate corn mazes around the country. And so that's something that a lot of folks have fun going through that maze.
You know, in southern Ohio, and I think going north, there are a few farms that do
Absolutely.
Corn mazes.
Absolutely. And so it really came about, again, as our economy changes more towards a experiential economy. People really want to pay for those experiences, create those memories with their families and friends. And of course, at times, if you're mainly doing corn and soybeans or livestock, those kinds of crop production are not always as profitable as we would like for them to be. So it's been a way for farmers to diversify their income.
See, I didn't realize that agritourism also incorporated pick your own.
Yes.
And is it the family outing, getting out into the field and picking strawberries? You can also pick pumpkins?
Absolutely. There's amazing all the things that you can do with agritourism. And actually, the state of Ohio defined agritourism. And I believe that, I might not have it here today, but again, it really combines that travel or tourism that individuals are looking for in agriculture to help really people understand production agriculture again.
Well, that's interesting. How did they get all those big pumpkins into that little container?
That can be a challenge. So, but it's again a great way for folks to get out there and see how agricultural products are produced.
That is interesting. And the corn mazes. You had indicated that this is sort of a supplementary kind of money's coming in for farming.
It can be, yes. And of course, it's not a fit for every operation, but I think it's something worth farms looking at, talking with their families and others involved in the operation, and see if it's an opportunity that might work for them based on their setup, their resources, and their personal goals, really. I mean, when you open up your farm, which is your home, and invite the general public to come visit your farm, you know, there's pros and cons to that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's a fit for folks, and sometimes they'd rather not have that open their home farm up for everybody. So you do have to do some evaluation individually to see if it fits for you.
You know, one of the things I know that on your farming operations, you have every year pick your own strawberries. But the question comes into, since I live in the city, I bet it's very difficult for me to, unless you have big signs, come to Christie's, pick your own strawberry kind of thing. I would venture to say that it's very difficult for some individuals to try and locate.
It can be, and so one of the things that we talk to producers about is making sure they have a good online presence. Because I don't know if you're like me, but usually when I'm going somewhere and I don't know exactly where I'm going, I'll pull out my smartphone and hit that button that says get directions. And so that's a great way. You know, we're finding that people tend to not figure out where they're going before they're in the car and on the way.
That's true.
So something as simple as having that get directions button on your social media sites and your website can be very beneficial.
And I guess with that in mind, farming or different smaller farms, etc., inviting people to come onto their farm can be scary at times.
Well, of course, you have to make sure that you're providing a safe environment. And so you have to learn, just like with any type of business, to manage the risks associated with what you're doing. And so, as I mentioned, the state of Ohio passed an agritourism law here a number of years ago, which provides some protections to the producer for having folks come out onto their farm and enjoy that farm operation. Now, having said that, you as an operator can't be negligent.
Right.
And if there are risks that are not naturally occurring to the farm, you need to make sure that you're providing a safe environment for your patrons to come and enjoy that in a safe atmosphere.
That's interesting, because I know that some farms have animals that protect them, like dogs, geese, different things. And if you're inviting the public to come in, you have to make sure
Absolutely.
that some of those animals.
Absolutely. So what the Agritourism law, and I'm not an attorney, Peggy Hall, who is our ag attorney with OSU Extension, has a blog that you could check out that is just ag law at OSU that talks more about the legalities of that agritourism law and what you need to do to make sure that you are providing that safe environment and what kind of protections it might provide to your farm.
So if I have a small farm and I want to get involved with the agritourism, et cetera, I have to sort of know what the benefits are. How will it affect me?
Absolutely.
And so I think you have a slide here that sort of goes through some of the benefits that you have found that really works well.
Well, and as I said, each operation is very individual. Just like any business, you have to evaluate what works for you and what doesn't. And so one of the things that we have to think about anytime that we add an additional enterprise to our farm, there are costs associated with that, so you really need to think about, is it profitable for you? But what some folks have found as benefits for agritourism, of course, it provides that positive public perception of agriculture. And there's just so much misinformation out there, in my opinion, on agricultural production. And so to get folks out there to help them understand how it's happening, I think it's beneficial to everybody. Again, the activities and attractions, they can attract additional customers, which of course can increase sales of the products you currently have. It again provide some off-season income for some operations. So maybe they're raising livestock or they're doing grain production, but maybe in the fall they have a big fall festival where they do pick your own pumpkins. And so that's some additional income for that farm, which again, the more profitable we are, typically the more sustainable our business is. And really, I'm very interested in helping these small farms be profitable, because to me that preserves our farmland, our natural resources, our green spaces. So I just think everybody wins in that situation.
You know, it's interesting. We city folk are really dependent upon the media and what we see, and unfortunately, when a disaster occurs, like a recent hurricane in North Carolina, there was some water problems because of some of the larger farms, and so that perception in your mind. We don't see truly the great benefits of having a farm. I know that on your farm it's primarily a fruit and vegetable farm, to where you raise certain things at certain weeks. At one time, were you not involved in cattle and?
Well, we're the third generation on the farm, and it was originally a dairy farm, so that's been many, many years ago. We have not produced livestock. We did do grain production for a while, but we've always looked to diversify our operation, and that's really worked well for us.
And so agritourism is one of those areas where you can diversify. Very good, very good.
And of course, if you're going to, again, invite the public onto your farm, into your home, you have to some extent be a people person.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes farmers are farmers because they can be out in the field by themselves and not around big crowds of people, and so maybe your personality doesn't allow for that. Maybe you've got another family member, though, that's exactly what they want to do.
Yeah.
So it's been a great way, again, to really diversify operations and help them be more profitable.
You know, in October, John Simon in Scioto County has a sorghum festival in which he invites all the different individuals throughout the county to come and share in making sorghum.
Sorghum?
And I had the opportunity to go with my wife, and it was really interesting. Not only was it filled with individuals, but he had different displays and different kinds of things, and you could, of course, purchase sorghum right there as it was being made.
Absolutely. And so there are just many, many different opportunities to incorporate agritourism into your farm, depending on what you're doing and what the production is. And again, I think the general public really wants that experience, because they're learning that all the information is out there, maybe not exactly accurate as far as agriculture is concerned, or, you know, it's people we didn't have that experience of growing up on a farm, so that's one of those skills, and just that knowledge is being lost as we become more and more removed from the farm. So it's a great way to help spread that knowledge.
One of the larger festivals in Ohio is also coming up. It's the Bob Evans Farm Festival, and that's located in the at Rio Grande, which is right off of University of Rio Grande, and there are hundreds and thousands of individuals that come to not only enjoy the different groups of entertainment, but they also get to flavor and get to see some of the operations that they have at Bob Evans Farm.
Absolutely, and there are so many festivals centered around food and agriculture here in Ohio. You know, I live in Ross County, and the next county north is famous for the pumpkin show, which is 3 days in October, where there's everything you can imagine related to pumpkins, from pumpkin donuts, which everybody loves, to pumpkin chili and pumpkin hamburgers. I mean, the list goes on and on. But it does attract tens of thousands of people over that 3-day festival.
I have never had a pumpkin elephant ear. You know, those are those big waffles. Until I went to one of the festivals, and You are absolutely right. If you love pumpkins, you're going to love this festival.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, people are really looking for those experiences that they can do as a family or as a group of friends that are both entertaining and educating at the same time. And so I think that's why some of these activities are really proving to be beneficial.
You know, another festival that I always enjoy is the Apple Festival in Jackson. It is one of those group of where they really promote the different kinds of apples.
Absolutely.
And it's just like the Pumpkin Festival. You have the apple this and apple that.
And so what some farms do that produce a whole bunch of varieties of apples on their farm, they'll have an apple festival right on their farm. And it really runs the gamut. There's strawberry festivals, there's sweet corn festivals, there's pumpkin festivals. The list is almost limitless of the festivals here in Ohio centered around food.
And you know, we have a popcorn festival. And I know it's north. I think it's near Marianne, but you know, that's what I heard. Yeah. And everyone loves popcorn. As a matter of fact, in Southern Ohio, aren't we sort of one of those principal growers of popcorn?
There are a couple producers here in this part of the state that do raise some popcorn. Yes, that's correct.
And Agritourism is not just about one particular fruit or vegetable. It's about many.
It is about many. And again, it's really bringing that tourism function with the agricultural production function and bringing that experience to individuals.
So let's suppose I have a small farm in which I raise a few head of cattle, and I grow my own corn and but I want to get into the agritourism. What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I see?
Well, that's a great question, Patrick. I mean, we have resources with our direct food and agricultural marketing team that can help you explore some different agritourism opportunities, but I do think there's a couple critical things you need to think about. Do you have the market? Do you have enough customers in your area that are willing to come and pay money to have that experience? And then the second thing is it going to be profitable for you? Because again, as I mentioned, anytime you add an additional enterprise to your farm or business, there are costs associated with that. And one of the things that we tend not to think so much about when we're evaluating agritourism operations and adding a new activity are what are the costs. And so one of the costs, of course, is the making sure you have the proper liability insurance. So there's a cost associated with that. But the other one that I think we don't think about a lot of times is you typically have to hire more employees to manage the flow of cars in and out, to make sure people are being served, and to make sure that they're having those good experiences. And so the other thing is the cost of adding those additional employees for that time period.
So, you know, we're coming into Halloween, and you have scary nights, and I know that there's in town and out in the country where you just have a good time going to and being scared, if you want to call it that. Would that be considered an agritourism?
It certainly could be. Again, here in Ohio, to fall under the agritourism law, the agriculture part has to come first. So you have to be a true operating farm, and then you can add that entertainment piece to the farm to fall under that law. Now, that's not to say you couldn't do it, but you certainly need to think that through as well. I had the opportunity, as you mentioned, Halloween. We had the opportunity to hear from a guest presenter at a conference I was at a couple years ago from Canada, and they had they really focused on the Halloween season and had the haunted hay rides and the whole thing like that. And so again, you just need to think about how you're going to manage the risks associated with that, because as we get into fall, daylight is shorter. Are you going to have people out in the corn maze after dark? But one of the things I found really interesting was his operation is they had a haunted hayride where the people on the wagon were given paintball guns.
Yeah.
And then as the zombies and things jumped out of the woods along the trail, you could shoot at the zombies with the paintball. And the biggest problem they had was getting actors, because they got hit with paintballs and those hurt and they wouldn't come back. So again, that's a little bit on the extreme side, but you just again need to think about who you're trying to target for these activities, and then what the target market population is in your area to figure out if it's going to be profitable for you.
You know, it's interesting. You mentioned something earlier about weddings. I did not realize that weddings could be considered an agritourism.
Absolutely, and so we hear a lot about weddings in the barn, and so many farms, of course, have old barns that can be renovated to offer that type of event, whether it's weddings or birthday parties or baby showers. The list goes on, but we talk a lot about weddings. Again, there's a lot of moving pieces to hosting a wedding, and I know your daughter recently got married, so you're very familiar with all those moving parts and pieces.
Oh, yes.
And so again, you really have to evaluate, does your facility lend to that? And then can you provide all the ancillary services to make sure that that is a successful day? Now, that doesn't mean you have to provide the catering and all that, but is there somebody you can work with, cooperate with on your farm to offer those events? But again, the agriculture piece has to come first. You can't go put up a brand new barn, have no agricultural production going on, and expect to fall under those provisions.
You know, there's some other events that you had listed out. They include birthdays and graduations. One of the other things that we're seeing too is a lot of folks are wanting to have that farm setting to take like senior photos, engagement photos, birth announcement photos, all those kinds of things that go on. So again, that's another opportunity to maybe work with some photographers, professional photographers, to generate additional revenue for your farm. It is something that I think you need to have think through and have a policy on who's allowed to do that and how they do that and all those kinds of things. But that's a really popular trend right now. And let's talk a little bit about food. I'm not sure what the laws are, and I know you're not an attorney, but if I grow food and I sell it to consumers, you know, that stop at my stand, do I have to get special insurance? Do I have to
So that's a really good question, Patrick, and there's not a simple answer. As far as the insurance, yes, have a conversation with your insurance provider, make sure they are understanding what you're doing, and make sure you have the proper coverages in places. Now, depending on what type of food you are producing will depend on how that is regulated by the state. And so if it's fresh produce, fruits and vegetables, there's very little regulation other than the Food Safety Modernization Act, which is coming on board, so we have to think about that. If you're serving prepared meals and prepared food items, then you work with your local health department. And if you're selling proteins, animal proteins, dairy products, then you have to work with the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, as well as the State Department of Agriculture. So there's just not really an easy answer for you there.
That's true. One of the things that Ohio is an agricultural and industrial state.
Yes.
And agriculture, what is the second leading economy in Ohio, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there,
yeah.
Yes.
But it is very high. And individuals had indicated that we are in need of 50,000 more individuals working in the agricultural places. And it's just not farming, but it's also some of the ancillary programs like insurance and some of the chemicals and things of that nature.
Researchers, of course, food scientists, all those things. There's a wide opportunity. Yes.
And so the question comes down to is where is the economy headed? And I know that we have a slide there that sort of looks at the economic, the agrarian economy, the industrial economy, the service economy, and the equipment economy. And the point being is that agriculture is one of the top areas that does provide a stable economy for Ohio.
It does, Patrick. There's 1 in 7 people employed in agriculture here in Ohio. Yes, according to statistics from the Ohio Department of Agriculture. But what this slide is really pointing out that when we started as a country, we're really an agrarian economy. Most everybody lived on a farm and had some role in producing their own food and sustaining themselves. And then, of course, we went to that industrial economy and then the service economy. And really now, whether it's based on agriculture or other types of businesses, people are more looking for those experiences. So we're really right in that experience economy. So not only do I want to be able to get my pumpkin, but I want to have a good experience in doing that.
Oh, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. So it's not enjoying carrying that pumpkin from the ground to your car.
Absolutely. And again, those of us in agriculture, we take for granted how things grow. You put the seed in the ground and you take care of it and you watch it grow, and then you go out and you harvest that pumpkin, and then you either take it in and bake it and make pie, or you take it in and carve a face into it or whatever. And we in production agriculture or food production take that experience for granted. And people just have not been exposed to that. So it's a great way to help them get that exposure that, everybody used to have that 150, 200 years ago, and it's just not the case anymore.
So you work with the Ohio State University South Centers, but you really cover all of Ohio.
Yes.
And the contact information, first of all, is there a fee in contacting you?
There's no fee to contact me. I work with Ohio State University Extension, which we have extension educators in every county in the state of Ohio, through the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences at Ohio State University. And it's not just me. I'm here talking today, but we have a team of about a dozen individuals on our direct marketing team. Some of those are extension educators, some of those are partnering organizations like the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and we really try to provide what it is that you need to make an informed decision so that you can be successful in your endeavors.
So you're one of those individuals that if you don't have the answers, you can help them to go to where they need to go.
We certainly try to do that, and so through our networks, we're pretty successful most of the time.
And so whether you're from Southern Ohio or from Northern Ohio, you are one of those people to contact.
Absolutely. Love to hear from you.
Christie, I really enjoyed the Agritourism, and perhaps we can, in the future, see some of those pictures of Halloween.
Wonderful. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.